Hey there, welcome to Synth Seeker. My name's Luke. This is production log number 4. I've been working on this track called Starting From Nothing. It's not Berlin School today. It's turning into a prog rock piece, but I'm going to go back and we're probably going to do a Berlin School sort of intro. But I don't know. We're going where the music takes us, okay? So where were we last time? When last we spoke, we had a few parts in here, right? We had this synth part running. I think it was an octave lower back then. Right? And then we had this bass part running over it as well. I'm not going to subject you to the whole thing. Anyway, the whole point was I was going to go away and work on some leads. I was going to try and work on some melody, but actually I got sidetracked into harmony parts. And I ended up trying to ended up doing a little patch design because I don't do it all up front, end up tweaking a bit. I had this Cobalt 8 set up so it was this sort of Roland jazz chorusy sort of almost guitar kind of sound. But I ended up going with sort of synth brass, real sharp attack there, with some phasing on top of that. And what I end up doing is using that to sort of play chords in the background. You'll hear in a second. Well, actually here. This is what it ended up being. We're playing this. And then a unison bit. Right, and that runs with this Moog. So it's like. So what happens is that comes in, this Moog part repeats twice, once an octave higher. So it plays up high for one run by itself, basically. Then it drops an octave as this sort of sharp horns come in. And I've also got the beginnings of this lead part that comes in again. And this is a lead off of the, actually the Nord lead A1. I like it. It's sort of a nasally sort of mono lead. With some phaser behind it as well. And so that's going to play a lead with this. So basically what we end up with and here's the lead coming in with the chords. And then they all play in unison. Right? And so this is in 6/8, and I had this rolling bass line in here. And I had done this sort of syncopation rhythmic bit where I was laying a 4/4 drum part over it. And I may do that later in the piece, but I actually still want to have this galloping thing. When I just need a quick rhythm, I always do rhythm last because it takes the longest for me. My dad's a drummer. And I have historically just used drum loops that repeat through an entire piece whenever I'm doing small jams and things like that. And it's kind of embarrassing. And I think it hurts his soul. So when I do sort of more formal productions, I try and use a loop as a temp track, basically. And then I go through and I'll build out more human drums. And so what I use generally for temp tracks is, especially things that aren't 4/4, is I use Stylus RMX from Spectrasonics. I highly recommend this piece of software. It's really great, mostly because it's got a huge library. Like if you use Omnisphere, anything from Spectrasonics, those guys build these massive libraries into it. But the nice thing about Stylus is you can go over to the time controls and simply specify what meter you want this to be in. And it has basically every odd time signature you could possibly want, with variations too. A lot of times if you take an existing clip, like an existing 4/4 loop, especially when it comes to rock drums that have that sort of hall reverb around them, and you try and chop it down to an odd time signature, you end up cropping the reverb tails and it doesn't sound right. Stylus does a really good job of treating this the right way because just about everything is a single note hit that it's orchestrating with its MIDI patterns. So highly recommend it. So I went back and I dropped a Stylus 6/8 track on top of it, and it ends up sounding pretty good, I think. It's not perfect, but it's a good placeholder. It gives me a feel for the groove. All right, and so that was the first sort of opening pattern. We don't have an intro, but this is early verse 1, call it. So I moved on to the next pattern. The next pattern sounds like this. Right, and I wanted to lay some chords under that, some kind of stabbing, comping sort of feel. And I'm thinking maybe like a sort of gating sort of effect on sustained chords, so what I've got here is the sustained chords. I laid a gate on top of it that's doing a sort of a rhythmic sort of stab. And I wanted these chords to be fairly thick. So a lot of 7ths and 9ths. So this is what we've built. All right, so if we put it all together, we get this, and I laid a lead on top of it, which is similar. Here's the Moog part that's playing, and I just took basically the upper notes from the register there and used them with that Nord lead sound. Right, and we ended up getting something like this. Right, so that's where I'm headed with this. Right, it's turning into more of a prog piece than a Berlin piece. But anyway, so really that's about it. I wanted to highlight just I'm using Stylus RMX as a sort of temp track generator. It's a great tool, really great, especially for odd time signatures. And then really just Nord lead for lead. I'm using this Cobalt 8. Oh, the Transgate. So I'm using, what am I using here? I'm using Kilohearts Transgate, actually. Kilohearts is a great, another great company. I think do they make Phase Plant? I think they make a synth. I'm pretty sure they make Phase Plant. But when if you subscribe to them, I think it's $10 a month or something, you get all their stuff. And I really like their Transgate. It's really easy to use. It's really musical as far as you can control. It's got an ADSR envelope for controlling what the ins and outs of the each sort of gated section of that is. And you can mix it in and change the resolutions and do odd time signatures too, right? So in 6/8, it's 48 instead of something like 32 or 64. So Kilohearts, also a great tool. So that's what's happening with the chords that are going on here. So anyway, super fast today. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. I am, in fact, still working on this track, and it's progressing. We'll see how it goes. I'll talk to you probably in another 5 or 6 days. So there's a taste of what's going on. Really, that's about it. If you have any comments or questions, do leave them below. I'm curious. And, if you're building music too, record your own production log. I'd love to watch along and see as you're building things out. It's pretty empowering and also motivates you to actually get the project done. I think I put more work into this project since I started doing these weekly production logs than I had in, numerous weeks of saying I should probably work on that track. Really. So thanks for your time. And you have been watching Synth Seeker. Have a great night.